Hello and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and today I'll be talking about The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol, and give my predictions on what I think will happen in Season 2, because we already have a trailer, and we already have some ideas about Season 3, so I think we can paint a pretty good picture of what will happen in these 6 episodes for Season 2. So let's just jump right into this with Episode 1, and this episode would definitely have 2 storylines, one for Carol, one for Daryl. I think the Carol storyline will just be about all her scenes in America, so that would be about her finding the crossbow, finding where Daryl is and getting on that plane. The Daryl storyline, I think, will just be very chill and be about Daryl training LaRon, and then we know there's no time jump, so about them getting back to the nest, and floating the idea with Isabel that what if all 3 of them together leave to go to America. And by the end of the episode, I think Isabel and LaRon will agree with it, and they'll come up with a plan to head to the tunnels between France and England, and that'll be episode 1. Episode 2 would follow Daryl at the tunnels with Isabel and LaRon, and we know it's going to happen because in the trailer, in the shot here, we see that this is actually the tunnel between France and England, but that obviously that tunnel's going to be closed down, so they're obviously going to have to go back to the nest, and this is why I think Madame Genet's going to come in, and there's going to be an attack, and as we see, there is an ambush that Madame Genet will fall into with Daryl's group, but Daryl also gets arrested. So what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a small attack at the nest. Daryl's going to come up with a plan to stop Madame Genet. They're going to fail the ambush, and Daryl's going to be arrested, or captured, shall I say, by Madame Genet, and Madame Genet is going to take over the nest, killing off a majority of the excess cast. On the Carol side of the story, about them landing in France and her basically getting her basics and making her way to Paris. She won't have much to do in episode 2, I think, but episode 3 we'll have the big battle at the nest where Daryl escapes. This is why I think there'll be some sort of walker attack or hybrid attack. Maybe in this episode hybrids are perfected, however there is an unforeseen outcome, and that is that hybrids can make other hybrids, and maybe that leads to a massive outbreak, and that will lead to Codron maybe helping Daryl escape after he's freed. But Daryl was maybe the only one to escape to Paris, and Codron and everyone else is stuck in the nest with Madame Genet after they deal with the hybrid walkers. And I think by the end of this episode you have a couple scenes with Carol walking around Paris, but it's all going to come up to the big reunion in episode 3. I don't see them drawn out to any later in the season, and it's definitely just cannot happen in episode 2, I think. So episode 3 is where I would place the reunion personally, my prediction. But then we have episode 4, 5 and 6, and this is where we have very little on because of the trailers, I think. Only show us maybe episode 1, 2, 3, and maybe 1 or 2 shots of episode 4 or 5. So we have very little to go off, but I think episode 4 is going to be the nothing episode. I think the biggest thing with Daryl and Carol would be the conflict with Carol wanted to take him home immediately, but Daryl being like, I have family here, I have to go fight them, and it might take him a while. It's like episode 4 of The Ones Who Live, where nothing really happens. It's a character focused episode, and I definitely think that's what episode 4 is going to be. You now have them reunited. They're going to have to talk it out to get on the same page to go and save everyone else. On the Madame Genet side, maybe Codron will start to maybe reform, and he could try and make up a plan to try and get everyone else out. We know the plane is going to be taken at some point. It's not broken. So I think maybe this episode is when Madame Genet finds the plane. So episode 5, Daryl and Carol in Paris are trying to get, maybe if some other people escape, reunite, and they are there to build a resistance against Madame Genet, and they're maybe the start of the fight, and then the big fight is in episode 6. And I think Codron, he's going to sacrifice himself to get that plane off, and I think inside the plane is going to be Isabel and LaRon trying to fly away. Maybe they fly to Spain, that's why our characters go to Spain. Maybe they fly off west and they crash. But I think episode 6 is where all the main bad guys are going to die, and maybe Daryl and Carol finally reunite with Isabel and LaRon, but if they're in the plane, I think that's the reason they're going to Spain. We know the plane will take off again. So that's kind of what I think's going to happen. It was very kind of vague in the back half because I just really cannot say for sure what I think will happen in the back half. I'm very confident with the first 3 episodes. So please tell me down below, do you agree with my predictions? Do you disagree? I want to know all your thoughts. How do you think this season's going to lay out? What do you think is going to happen? I'll let you know all your thoughts down below. But it's it for me today. So goodbye, peace, and I'll talk to you later.